Greetings, humanoids of the internet. My name is Bob, and this is KSP Rocket Garage. Here with your good friend Elmer, we're going to go and take a look at some of these engines here in the garage and see how they work. This is really a sort of the idea for this is people are asking me ideas about rocket design and my rocket design philosophy and all that, and sort of more details than I guess what I covered with my rocket design tutorial. So we're going to sort of dig a little deeper, take it a little bit slower than I did then, and I have to add the caveat of I am the worst teacher on technical subject that you could possibly have, and I realized this when I was teaching people how to use computers, and I'd be like, bam, 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 there you go, next thing, and they'd be like, what? Whoa, slow down, Bubba. What the fuck did you just do? so things that are computers would be a classic example. Things that are to me just like breathing, it's like I don't even have to think about it. I have forgotten that I've even learned it, and it's like programmed into my engrams. My quick firing nerves to just make the right movements without me even being aware of it. It's sort of like it's moved from a voluntary response to an autonomic response. And while I'm not quite that way with KSP, there is a certain point at which I tend to assume that people know stuff that they don't really know, because me being me and not having a life and kids and a mortgage and all that, I have lots of time to spend playing a KSP, whereas other people may not, and so they things that would be fairly much elementary to me may not be that way for everyone. So we're going to kind of dig down, take our time, and explore some issues in rocket design. Okay, I'm going to just start a rocket here so that we can take a look at the things as we discuss them. Okay, disregard that. That's not stock. So going down the list, first thing is basic jet engine, which is not that useful unless you're only going to be going at low altitudes in the atmosphere. However, this is probably more relevant to the other jet engine than this one. One thing about jet engines is especially if you're doing a small rocket, they make a great first stage. You look at this ISP. First, I can't point at it because my thing. But if you look down the list here below where it says description, it says ISP. That's specific impulse. That's how efficient your engine is. The ISP at sea level is 2,000. It says ISP in vacuum 1,000. Doesn't really apply. You can't really have jet engines, at least supposedly, without air. So, but look at that, 2,000. Okay, now look at this one. Now this is a reasonably decent engine. ISP at sea level 320. So 320 versus 2,000, and higher number for ISP is better. So that means a jet engine is much more efficient in an atmosphere than a rocket engine is. Now let's pop out this one and take a look at the other jet engine. Excuse me. This is probably the one you want to use if you're going to make a first stage of jet engines. Max power 225, which is very respectable. ISP at sea level 800. ISP at vacuum doesn't really apply. That's something I actually have not noticed until just now. I always use these engines instead of the other ones, almost always, unless I'm doing something that's only going to be operating at low altitudes. But this is the efficiency on this one's not as good as the other one. It has more power. Let's take a look at this one. Yeah, ISP at sea level is 2,000. That's pretty good. Now I don't think it. I think it doesn't go as well in high altitudes. Excuse me. I think this one does a little bit better at high altitudes. Anyway, if you're making a small rocket, like you were just launching a satellite, jet engines actually are, for first stage, are a real good choice. Only a couple things you need to think about, which is if you have a first stage consisting of more than one jet engine, you don't want to have a flame out. Flame out happens when it runs out of air, the engine sparks, it goes out of control, and bad things happen. So if you have a first stage that uses multiple jet engines, you want to make sure that you drop that stage well before you run out of air, because that would be a bad thing. You would lose control of your rocket if you were to have a flame out. Assuming it had more than one engine. If it only has one engine, then probably you don't have to worry about it. But one engine going from sea level to the altitude where you have to drop it wouldn't nearly use up this entire tank. This tank here, it would only use one engine would only use up a fraction of this tank getting to an altitude where it needs to be dropped. So you probably need to you want to make maximum use of one of these tanks. Probably have like 6 jet engines attached to that. Anyway, but I digress. We're mostly talking about rockets here. Okay, next one, LVT-30. You see here, ISP at sea level 320, ISP in vacuum 370. So it has really relatively good performance both at sea level and at vacuum compared to some of the other ones. So that's a very very common and very good choice for a first stage rocket engine, and even for upper stages to an extent. But usually, if I'm going for up stages, I'll go with the vectoring engine. And also, another good thing about this is some of the engines do overheat. This one doesn't. It will not overheat. I've never seen one overheat. Excuse me. So when you're looking at engines, you need to be thinking about when it says the max power on it. Is that really how much power you're going to be able to get out of it, or is it going to overheat? Like, for instance, this thing. This bad boy overheats like crazy. But it also puts out a tremendous amount of thrust, so usually having to throttle down is not a big problem. Okay, well, moving right along to that one. This engine, to me, has only one good thing going for it, and that is it puts out a hell of a lot of thrust. It puts out 1,500 units of thrust, as versus 215 for that guy. That puts out a heck of a lot of thrust. But look at the ISP. ISP at sea level 280. That's miserable. The ISP on this one for sea level is 320. So efficiency is miserable. Efficiency in vacuum is miserable. It is, however, thrust vectoring, which means you can pivot around to steer your rocket, and that can be a very important thing to have. Probably, well, you can on a first stage you can get away with that without having a thrust vectoring engine, but generally speaking, on every stage you're going to want to have some kind of thrust vectoring control, because otherwise it can be very hard to steer. Now on the first stage you can use fins, but fins only have a relatively they're only effective in relatively low altitudes. So if you had a first stage that you're going to drop fairly low, you can get away with just using fins. But for most of your stages, you're going to want to have at least one engine that's thrust vectoring, because otherwise it's going to be difficult to steer, or you'll have to spend RCS fluid to steer or something. So that's that one. The only reason why I would use this one is if I'm launching a very large complex rocket, and I've already got so many parts on it that I don't really want to add the parts to put like 6 of these on it. So that's one way where it comes in handy. Okay. This is the yeah, and it's not telling me what it is. I think it's the LVT-45. This has slightly less power than its cousin, the T30, but it is thrust vectoring, which this one is not. Which means that it will pivot. Basically, you have, most rocket engines in real life have the ability to gimbal. In other words, they pivot in their mounts so as to keep the rocket on course. And this is thrust vectoring. That's a good thing. Something I've done a lot of is let's just grab a big ass fuel tank here. It's the big ass fuel tank. Then grab the cubic octagonal strut. And about a symmetry of 6. This is the symmetry mode. That's how many of these things that it will put up. Let's put on angle snap. Do something like that. Use the non-vectoring engines for the outside, if it'll let me. In this case it won't. Weirdly enough, it will let me do it if I go further in. Well, I say that. They may have made some changes in the most recent update that affect how it likes to do this. Oh, let's change this symmetry to use shift and your symmetry button to change your symmetry. We'll do 4. Our shift goes backwards in the symmetry. So we'll pop out 4 of these. Okay, and then if you put one of the thrust vectoring rockets in the middle, like that, what you have is you have the power of these non-vectoring rockets to lift up your stage, and generally speaking, you'd have a stage larger than this, and then a vectoring engine in the center to help steer it. That's a good little configuration. I often use something like this instead of using one of these. Although it doesn't have as much power as one of these, it's also not as wasteful. So you can get further with less fuel. And that's a good thing. Okay. On to the next engine. The Rocket Max Poodle. You would never use this for a first stage, as far as I'm aware, unless you just have fuel to burn. The efficiency in the atmosphere is miserable. 270 ISP. ISP in vacuum is pretty good. So this is very often used as a lander engine of sorts. You know, you can use this excuse me, as an engine for your moon lander or whatever. Has very good efficiency in vacuum, very miserable efficiency at sea level. And this is one of my favorite engines. It is thrust vectoring, which let's see, the Poodle is also thrust vectoring. Yeah, it is. It's thrust vectoring, and it's quite efficient. ISP in vacuum is 390. It's actually not even that bad at same efficiency as the Rocket Max Poodle in vacuum, but it's also not that bad at sea level either. It's not great, but it's not bad. But so this would also be a choice for a lander engine, or if you want to land a probe or something on another planet, this would be an excellent choice. Relatively lightweight. The total mass on this one is 0.5. Total mass on this one is, of course, this has much more thrust, 2.5. But this only has 50 thrust. So it'd be for if you wanted to have multiples of these for your lander, or if you're landing a probe somewhere, that's a very good choice. These I haven't used that much. They're very tiny. They're itty bitty. See? It has very low power output, very low efficiency. I have used these for things. I can tell you right away what I use them for. But it's tiny engine, not very efficient, not very much thrust. Okay, now on to one of my favorites, the LVN atomic rocket motor. Okay, check this out. You got some of these vacuum engines that are ISP efficiency of say 390. This one has a ISP and vacuum of 800, you know. So yeah, it's a big deal. ISP at sea level, miserable. So you wouldn't even use this at sea level. It'd be stupid to even try. It is heavy, and it does have relatively limited power. It has only an engine max power of 60, which is only like 10 more than that. But it weighs 2.25. This one has a weight has a thrust of 50, and weighs 0.5. So this is the rocket engine nuclear. The atomic rocket motor is very heavy, and it is quite low thrust. What it also is super efficient. So if you're doing an interplanetary stage, that's a very good thing to use for that. That's probably the default thing to use for an interplanetary thrust stage. I also use them for landers, but you need to have more than one of them. Let's see if I have any of my nuclear rockets. Now, see, I'm in the test. I'm in the test section. Let me cancel. Let's back out of here. Go into my journey into space save. I'll show you some of my rockets that use atomic power. Load. My KSP has been tending to freak out lately, so I hope that that squad is going to take care of some of the bugs that instability problems that we've been having. People, including me, but also other people, have been having with the latest build. So, okay, this is the Sploratron GT as featured in my Grand Tour videos. Okay. And sort of the business end of all this. Let's take all this off for a second. This is the rocket as it is heading into space or landing on a planet, it's got 3 of these atomic rocket motors. Very efficient for interplanetary cruising. The only thing you could get would be more efficient would be ion engines, but ion engines have very low thrust for the very low thrust for each one. So a manned ion engine interplanetary ion spacecraft, yeah, it's possible. You have to be very patient with it because it's not going to go anywhere fast if you got ion engines on it. So this is be an example of a atomic rocket motors used both for interplanetary cruise, also for landing. Although you couldn't land this on anything place that was had much higher gravity than the Mun. Now it does have parachutes, so probably maybe it could land on Duna. I passed on attempting that, but certainly any other planets that you might want to go to, you probably need some thrust on it that's better than this. But for what I was doing, which mostly going to moons and stuff, this was a very good arrangement, and it's very efficient. It uses fuel at a much less extreme rate than most rocket engines would. In fact, it's twice as efficient as the next best normal rocket engine. So it's a very good choice for interplanetary cruise stages. And if you're not going to be landing on any place with a really significant gravity, it's also a good choice for lander engines. But not if you're going to go somewhere that's got a lot of gravity, because these guys don't have a great deal of thrust. So, okay. All right. Okay, where were we? We were talking about the nuclear engine. It does tend to overheat a bit, and it's not really ever been a problem as far as, I do typically not put it up completely all the way for full thrust because of overheating, but you can put it like a hair of a notch below full thrust. It'll do fine. Okay, next engine. Oh, this thing. I don't use this very much. I have noticed it's very good if you're going to land a rover on a surface because it's got a nice side-mounted engines. But efficiency is pretty mediocre, not very good at all at sea level, only slightly better in vacuum, and fairly heavy, and it's got reasonable thrust on it too. So it doesn't have a bad thrust-to-weight ratio actually, but the efficiency is something that I have not does not pleased me, so I have not tended to use it very much. But it does have reasonable thrust, and so it's a good for a side-mounted engine. If you want to have a relatively high thrust side-mounted engine, that's a good one. Now there's this one. As you can see, the ISP at sea level is pretty miserable. ISP in vacuum is not much better, but okay, so it's got engine max power of 20, but it only weighs 0.09, so it's not quite 0.1 to get 20 thrust. So how many of these would you need? Let's say you got 3 of these. That would be 0.3 to get 60 thrust. They got this one that has 50. It's 0.5. So this one has a very, very good weight to thrust ratio. It's not very efficient, but it is very lightweight. So that is a good choice for a variety of uses, and it's side mountable, so that's good. I like these engines. I do use those engines because they are very lightweight. Separatrons. Okay, we need to do a quick rocket test here. I think we've moved to the point where we actually need to get a rocket into space here, because I want to show you something about separatrons, and I want to shoot a rocket into space. Okay, so here's the robotic control module. We could put people on there if we wanted to. We'll pop on 2 batteries. We'll pop on solar panels. Okay. Here's the decoupler. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Okay. Just for grins. So we're going to launch up a little probe, but I'm going to I'm doing this to kind of do a Sepatron tutorial of sorts. Let's get a decoupler like that. We're going to launch this little probe into space. Gonna stick an antenna on it just for grins. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to work on our rocket engines. And this is actually also a good time to talk about Asparagus staging. Okay. Okay. What am I looking for? I'd rather use this one. Okay, we're gonna make a rocket. Make a rocket, shoot it into space. Alright, we'll get some of these good vectoring engines right there. Let's take a vectoring engine in the middle. Good, good. Okay, yeah, there's 3 different kinds of radial decouplers. That's allows you to attach side boosters. Even though this one's slightly heavier than these, I like these because they give you some space. Especially if you have a situation like this where you got things sticking out, having a little extra space is a good thing. Okay, I'm going to put 2 decouplers for 2 side boosters. And sometimes there's a glitch that won't allow you to attach something until you've attached it somewhere else first. That's another bug that they ought to get working on. Okay, I'm going to use the non-vectoring engine for these side boosters. This is a really dorky rocket, but I'm just doing it to demonstrate something. Mainly you can get to orbit. Okay. Now I'm going to duplicate those 2, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use strut connectors. Pretty much if you're going to use side boosters, you need to have at least some strut connectors. What that does is it firms up the connection between these 2 objects. Because otherwise it'll wobble all to heck and probably could very easily blow up or something. And if you put these on before you duplicate them, that means that the duplicates will also have those, and that's a good thing. Okay, so we're going to duplicate these. Boom. I hold down the Alt key to duplicate. Close enough. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have this one be the stage that drops first. The idea is that you drop off tanks and engines as you no longer need them. So this is going to drop first. Sepatron, or the decoupler there, goes onto its own separate section. No, actually these all go together because they all fire at the same time. As does this, and all of these. So all the engines fire at the same time. But this one's going to drop first, and the reason why it's going to drop first is that its fuel, well, while it's running, its fuel is going to go over here. And yeah, okay, it did that. So while it's running, it's not only feeding this engine, it's feeding this engine. This is sort of the Asparagus staging system. And actually we can do it one better. We've got enough room to probably do some more of that kind. So we'll have a real multi-angled Asparagus system here. Okay, so we decided what, that's the first one. Okay. It needs to get the decouplers for that need to go on its own stage, and we will attach this one. Okay, next one to drop will be this one. It's already set up on its own stage, and it's feeding fuel to this one. This thing's probably going to explode on the launch pad, I'm sure. Okay. This will be the third one to go. Right? Okay. And it will be feeding to this one. And then finally we have this one. And this one feeds here. Okay, now what is the benefit of having it arranged this way, aside from the fact that it just makes things way more complicated? What it means is that as you no longer need fuel tanks and thrust, you drop them. And when this first one drops, all the rest of them will be completely full of fuel because it'll be feeding into it the whole time. This one will drop, then this one will empty out, and it'll drop, and all the rest will be full at that time, and so on. So it's a very efficient way of arranging your stages for your first stage. And you see this a lot. You see this on the other videos besides mine. Very popular and very successful way of arranging your staging for your first stages to get off the ground. Okay. This is one of the uglier rockets I've ever made. Let's see if we can pretty it up some. Oh god, no, it looks worse now. Yeah, I'm really not focusing on looks at this point. I'm just trying to do a demonstration, sort of. Okay, so now think about what this thing is doing when it's in flight. Now this thing is going to drop off pretty much straight away. You don't really have to worry about whether when it falls off it's going to get in the way of any of the other rocket engines. Probably that's not going to happen. This one, could get in the way. Maybe not. This one's definitely could get in the way because when this one drops, probably this whole rocket's going to be tilted over, which means there's a good chance that this could fall on the rocket, which will be a bad thing. So let's do some Separatrons for this one. Separatrons are little wrong section. Little solid rockets that help you to separate your stages, or to at least to keep your stages from hitting your other stages. And you should pretty much always do these in pairs. And actually, we'll go ahead and do Separatrons for every stage except for the very first one here. Okay, the way I do it anyway is to have my Separatron very close to what I think would be the center of gravity for this construction, which would be a bit down because of the weight of the engine. So we'll put that one here, and the way I always do it is to do it in pairs. Obviously, if I just had this one on, it would go spinning around and could actually make things worse. So, okay, we want to have this fire off at the same time. Locking up. Have this fire off at the same time that this one decouples. It's not what's gotten out. So when this decouples, these should fire. Okay, and we'll do the same thing with the other ones. I'll go ahead and get those set up off camera. But I mean, you can see what I'm doing here. When this drops, these guys are pushing this booster away. That's a good thing, especially if the booster would otherwise fall on the rocket, destroying it. That's not a good thing. Okay, we got our Separatrons set up, and we also gave it a name, the KSP Garage test. And as you see, this is the stage it'll drop first. We'll be going straight up here, so we won't need Separatrons for that. For all the other ones, I have the Separatrons on here on the same stage as their decoupler. So when that decouples, these ignite and blow it away from the rest of the rocket. And let's straighten this up a little bit. So that's the general idea. I could have saved myself some work by first setting up Separatrons on one of these and then duplicating them, but what the hell. Also, I've seen a lot of people not even use these, which is really stupid. Launch stability enhancers. It's very good to have these to keep your rocket from smashing its own rocket engines as it sits on the pad. Especially important if you're going to have large rockets. Important thing though is to make sure that they are all on the first stage, unless the first stage has jet engines on it. If you have a first stage of jet engines, you probably don't want to have these things release straight away because jet engines take a while to build up to their maximum thrust. So let's say if this is a first stage of jet engines, probably you would want to have these things release after, well after the engines had actually started, because otherwise it'll fall on the engines and break and blow up and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Anything I'm forgetting? That's about it. I could put fins on these things. This thing. I do have one vectoring engine in here. Probably by the time I would need to have fins, they wouldn't work anyway. So, save and launch. So this is a demonstration of the Asparagus staging system, but also of the Separatrons, which are very useful, sometimes even necessary to use if you have a situation where you have a lot of side boosters like this. Okay, throttle to maximum. SAS on in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Whoa. That moves. Okay, it's just about to suck that one net dry. Okay, it sucked it dry. Okay, moving on to the next one. Sucking it dry. We're going to have a test of the Separatrons on this one. And go. Next one. Wow, it's going through them fast. So you notice the Separatrons kind of push it a bit out of the way, so that there's not as much of a troubles. Not as much troubles. And this sucking down this stage pretty fast too. Oh, and I missed my gravity turn. I should have. It's because it's going so freaking fast. I didn't even notice my gravity turn. So I actually didn't need Separatrons on. Well, if I had done my gravity turn at a normal time, I would have absolutely needed the Separatrons. But this thing is going so fast, like a bat out of hell, that God damn it! Shit! Stop! 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 Okay. I had some major lack of understanding of the performance of this thing. This thing goes like a bat out of hell. I mean, really, like a bat out of freaking hell. Okay. Let's go ahead and restart that, and we'll be able to do a better demonstration of why you would need Separatrons on those side stages. Like a bat out of freaking hell, man. Jeez. Okay, we need to think about doing our gravity turn at some point here. Not quite yet, perhaps. The thing is, these things drop so fast. It's kind of hard to keep a track of what stage needs to be jettisoned. Okay, so that one's gone now. Now, if I didn't have it like this, it could very well fall against the rocket. Of course, it's totally wigging out. Okay, stay there. Let's use a little RCS. Oh, I don't have an advanced SAS on this thing. That's why. Shit. Yeah. Okay. That's a good lesson. Good thing to have is a advanced SAS. Don't leave the spaceport without it. So it means I got to manually control this sucker. I was wondering why it's acting so wonky. Okay, we're at 70,000. We'll just heal over. Well, I guess I've actually demonstrated what I needed to demonstrate here, which is the Asparagus staging system and the Separatrons. The use of the Separatrons. That thing was going like a bat out of hell, man. Yeah, no SAS on it though. My bad. My bad. As a fairly screwed up orbit. I don't really care because I wasn't really trying to get something into orbit to begin with. I was just trying to demonstrate some stuff. Okay. But just for grins, we'll get it into orbit before we cancel the mission. Alright, it's in orbit. Hello, orbit. And I got enough fuel for a little bit of extra stuff here. So it did get to orbit. And it has no SAS though, so it's just kind of drifting. Well, there's the Mun. We could probably get to the Mun, but we couldn't get back or probably even stay in orbit. Okay, that was fun. Headlight! Headlight! Nice center. Okay, let me see how much I've recorded here so far. I recorded about 30 minutes, so I think we'll call that quits. Let me, just in case I ever use this for anything again, let's stick an SAS on it. It's a good thing to have. Okay, well that's all we have time for right now. I may make this a sort of irregular series, you know, every once in a while, especially as people request help on rocket construction topics and so on. I may put out some more of these. But this is all for this one right now. And what we covered today is different types of rockets and what they're good for, including jet engines, which are in fact good for first stages, as long as you drop them before they run out of air. And the different engines, including the beautiful nuclear engines, which I love a lot, and which I use a lot. We also talked about Asparagus staging and Separatrons. Alrighty, until next time, hasta la vista. Adios.